I'm Hailey Morgan, 27 years old, freelance photographer in Los Angeles. My parents gave my sister a house and held a grand wedding, but they didn't attend my wedding. I thought it was just normal favoritism until I discovered a secret. I was not the child they wanted, just a replacement after an old tragedy in the family. From then on, I chose to take revenge, not by law or money, but by uncovering the secrets they hid, forcing them to look back at themselves. If you love real-life stories, chilling revenge, and dark family secrets, hit that subscribe button now. You're about to step into a world where the truth is far more terrifying than fiction. I used to think every family had a golden child. In ours, that child was my sister Sophia Morgan, the one whose smile could single-handedly light up a dinner table, the one who somehow always said the right things, wore the right dresses, loved the right men. And then there was me, Hailey Morgan, 27 years old, a freelance photographer who lived half the year out of a suitcase and the other half wandering around downtown Los Angeles finding beauty in broken walls and forgotten alleys. Growing up, I thought the difference in how my parents treated us was normal. Sophia was the daughter who followed the script, straight A student, pre-med major, polite, predictable. Everything our parents could point at with pride. I was the daughter who always spilled paint on the carpet, who climbed onto the roof to take sunset photos, who brought home friends with purple hair and chipped nail polish. Our parents didn't punish me for who I was, they simply existed around me. That kind of silence cuts in a way shouting never could. When Sophia got engaged to Noah Bennett, a board-certified plastic surgeon with perfect teeth and even more perfect parents, my mom and dad threw her a garden party that could have doubled as a magazine spread. They flew in relatives from Florida, hired a live band, even transformed the backyard with chandeliers and fresh lilies. I remember standing in the corner holding a drink. I wasn't sure I liked watching my mother clasp a diamond bracelet onto Sophia's wrist, with the kind of tenderness she had never shown me, and the moment Sophia announced that our parents had bought her a beach house. Yes, an actual house. My heart sank a little, not because I wanted a house, but because I realized they'd never even considered giving me something symbolic, something that said, "We see you too." But nothing hurt as much as my wedding day. It was a dry September afternoon, the kind that made the sky look washed out and endless. Noah, my Noah, not Sophia's Noah, stood beside me, his hands slightly trembling in mine. He was a musician, a dreamer, the kind of man who wrote songs on napkins and believed in soulmates. My parents had never approved of him. Musicians don't have stable incomes, my father had said once, not knowing that Noah heard everything from the hallway. Hailey deserves someone who can take care of her, my mother had added, as if I had been incapable of choosing love for myself. When the invitations went out, I held onto a tiny flicker of hope that they would come anyway, even if just to sit silently in the back row. But the reply came in the form of a message from my mother, short and merciless. "We cannot support this decision. Please don't expect us to attend." And they didn't. So on that dry September day, as I walked through the desert field, toward the wooden altar my friends had decorated with wildflowers, the two empty chairs in the front row glared at me like open wounds. I didn't cry. I refused to. But something inside me shifted like a small, delicate bone snapping. I vowed that day I would never beg for a love that should have been freely given. After the wedding, Noah and I settled into a tiny apartment in Silver Lake. It wasn't much: cracked tiles, mismatched chairs, a window that whistled when the Santa Ana winds hit. But it was ours. We decorated the walls with my photography prints, hung his guitars on floating shelves, and convinced ourselves that starting small was charming. For a while, I threw myself into work photo shoots for indie magazines, album covers for local musicians, behind-the-scenes stills for low-budget films. I traveled constantly, lugging my camera between states, chasing sunlight and stories. But eventually, the distance from my family stopped feeling like a choice, and more like a bruise I kept bumping into. It was around Christmas when the strange email arrived. I was editing wedding photos for a client when a message popped into my inbox from an address I didn't recognize: Lily Sun 1970 Proton Mail Com. The subject line was simple: Photo restoration request. The body of the email read, "I found an old picture of my family, but it's damaged. Could you please restore it for me? You're recommended as someone who works delicately with older images." Attached was a scanned photograph. The edges were torn, the colors washed out, the paper creased across the center. But it was the content that made my heart stop. My parents. Younger, maybe in their early 30s, Sophia, around 6 or 7 years old, already radiant, even in a faded picture. And a third girl. A girl I had never seen before. She looked almost like Sophia, same eyes, same chin, but her hair was lighter, wavier, sun-kissed. She stood between my parents, holding their hands with a confidence that suggested she belonged there. The kind of belonging I had never felt. I zoomed in on the photo, studying the details. The girl's smile, the grip of my father's hand around her smaller fingers, the way my mother leaned slightly toward her. Not Sophia. I didn't breathe for a full 10 seconds. Who was she? Why had I never seen this picture? Why had this stranger contacted me specifically to restore it? I clicked reply and typed, "Who is the girl in the photo?" But halfway through typing, I hesitated. A childhood memory flickered in the back of my mind. Me at maybe 10 years old, opening a drawer in the hallway cabinet and finding a small photo album inside, only to have my mother snatch it from me so fast the pages tore. She'd slammed the drawer shut and said sharply, "Don't touch things that aren't yours." At 10, it felt like scolding. At 27, it felt like a warning. Instead of asking my question, I wrote a simple response agreeing to restore the photo. I attached my invoice and hit send, but curiosity gnawed at me. So later that evening, when Noah was in the shower, I drove to my parents' house in Santa Monica without telling him. Their home was pristine as always. White walls, lemon trees perfectly trimmed. The front door painted a fresh teal. I still had a key. Inside, the air smelled like lavender and expensive candles. I went straight to the garage. Old houses hide their truths in garages. There were several boxes stacked neatly against the wall, labeled with my mother's impeccable handwriting. Christmas decor, winter coats, Sophia, old photos. But there was no box with my name on it. I swallowed hard and opened the one labeled Sophia, old photos. I slid my hands through stacks of albums, envelopes, loose prints, birthdays, camping trips, school plays. And then hidden under a stack, I found an old wooden box with no label. Inside were photographs, dozens of them. Some curled, some scratched, some missing corners. And in almost every one, the same unfamiliar girl appeared. The same girl from the email. The same girl standing between my parents as if she were the center of their world. My stomach tightened, my hands shook. I picked up a photograph. My father pushing the mystery girl on a swing, while Sophia played in the background, almost an afterthought. Then another, my mother brushing the girl's hair, while she sat proudly on a bathroom counter. The girl wasn't a relative's child. She belonged here. So why had she been erased? I turned one of the photos over. On the back, written in blue ink, were 5 words. "To Lily, our first sunshine." Lily, a name I had never heard in my life. I sat down on the cold concrete floor. The photographs spread around me, like fragments of a ghost, only I could see. My heartbeat echoed in my ears, loud and urgent. If Lily was their first sunshine, then what was I? Why was there no evidence of her in our house? Why had no one ever mentioned her? Why had my parents replaced her photos with spotless white walls and curated memories? And most terrifying, why had someone outside our family sent me that photo now? My phone buzzed in my pocket, pulling me out of my spiraling thoughts. It was Noah. "Hey, love you. Okay, you left kind of fast." I stared at the screen, unable to form a reply. Because for the first time in my life, I realized something undeniable. My place in my family had never been an accident. I was not ignored because I was different. I was ignored because I was not her. And whatever had happened to Lily, my parents had buried it so deeply that even her name had been erased. But someone out there remembered. Someone wanted me to uncover it. And I wasn't sure whether that terrified me or thrilled me. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, the image of that little girl, Lily, appeared behind my eyelids, smiling with a confidence I had never seen from any child in my family. It wasn't just the photographs or the handwriting on the back that haunted me. It was the way she stood between my parents, as though she belonged there, more than anyone else ever did. More than Sophia, more than me. Around 3 in the morning, I finally climbed into bed beside Noah, who was asleep face down with one arm wrapped around my pillow. His breathing was slow and peaceful. I envied him for that. I lay awake staring at the ceiling, gripping the sheets until my fingers tingled. The house around me felt too small, too quiet, as if it was waiting to see what I'd do next. By sunrise, I knew I needed answers. Not guesses, not theories, answers. And the first step was replying to the mysterious email. I sat at my desk, the early light filtering through our thin curtains, dust floating in the air. I placed my fingers on the keyboard and typed slowly. I've restored the photo. May I ask, how did you find me? I didn't mention that I recognized the people in it. I didn't mention that the girl in the center of the photo had turned my world upside down. I didn't mention the box of hidden memories I'd found in my parents' garage. Within 10 minutes, a reply came. My heart slammed against my ribs. Someone recommended you. Thank you for the restoration. I'll send more photos if needed. I frowned. That wasn't an answer. That was an evasion. I typed again. Who is Lily? This time it took longer to respond. I imagined a stranger sitting in some dimly lit room debating whether to give away a secret or keep it buried. After nearly 20 minutes, a new email appeared. You should ask your parents. My breath caught. Whoever this person was, they knew exactly what they were doing. Dangling a thread, pulling me forward inch by inch, tempting me with truths I wasn't sure I was ready to face. I typed again, fingers shaking. Why contact me? Why now? No response came. Not that hour. Not that morning. Not the rest of the day. The silence was worse than any answer. Noah noticed something was off around noon. I'd been pacing the kitchen, my camera untouched on the table, my coffee turning cold next to it. He walked toward me, still wearing the oversized black t-shirt he slept in. His hair a mess in the best possible way. You're quiet today, he said gently. Even for you. I forced a smile. He saw right through it. Did something happen at your parents' place? His voice was low, cautious. I hadn't told him where I went the night before. The lie felt sticky in my throat, so I told him part of the truth. There were photos, old ones I'd never seen before. He waited for me to continue, his brown eyes warm and patient. There was a little girl in them, I said. Someone I've never heard of. And they were hidden, completely hidden, like someone didn't want anyone to find them. Noah frowned. A cousin, maybe. A neighbor. No. I shook my head. She was in almost every picture, with my parents, with Sophia, like she was a part of the family. Noah took a slow breath. Did you ask them? I let out a humorless laugh. You know my parents. They wouldn't tell me even if the house was burning down. He didn't disagree. You should talk to Sophia, he suggested. If anyone knows something, it's her. That idea sat heavy in my chest. Sophia and I weren't estranged. Not exactly. We just lived in orbit around different planets. We talked on holidays, texted on birthdays. I photographed her wedding, but left the reception early. She said she understood. I knew she didn't. I checked my phone. Still no email. A decision formed. I'm going to visit her, I said. Noah nodded. Do you want me to come? I shook my head. Not yet. He kissed my forehead softly. Call me if you need me for anything. I squeezed his hand. Always. Sophia lived in a house that looked like it had been pulled straight from an HGTV, special white walls, gold fixtures, and an ocean breeze that carried the scent of eucalyptus. It was the kind of house people said was tasteful when they really meant expensive. A house gifted by our parents. Of course. She answered the door wearing yoga pants and a loose sweater, her blonde hair pulled into a low ponytail. She frowned slightly when she saw me. Hailey, she said, is everything okay? I didn't bother with small talk. I need to ask you something. Her expression tightened. Can I come in? She stepped aside. Of course. Inside, everything was spotless. Not a picture frame out of place. Not a cushion misaligned. I wondered what my life would be like if I had grown up in environments like this, structured, pretty, protected. We sat in her living room, the ocean visible through tall windows. I took a deep breath, then I said it. Who is Lily? Sophia froze. Her lips parted slightly as if she'd forgotten how to breathe. For a moment, the only sound in the room was the muffled crash of distant waves. I don't know what you're talking about, she said finally. I stared at her. There were photos in Mom and Dad's garage of a girl named Lily. She was with all of you. All the time. She isn't a relative. She isn't a friend. She's family. Sophia looked down at her hands. They were trembling. Hailey, she whispered. You weren't supposed to see those? My chest tightened. Why not? She didn't answer. Was she adopted or given away? Was she sick? My voice cracked. Or did something happen to her? Something so awful no one could talk about it. Sophia pressed her palms to her face. Her shoulders shook. For the first time in my life, I saw my sister cry. Just tell me, I said softer now, please. She lifted her head, eyes glossy. Lily wasn't adopted, she whispered. She wasn't a friend. She wasn't a cousin. She swallowed hard. She was our sister. The words slammed into me. My lungs struggled against air that suddenly felt too thin. Well, what, I stammered. You were just a baby when she died, Sophia continued. Mom and Dad never wanted to talk about her again. They said it would be too traumatic for the family, too painful. They thought burying the memories would make it easier. Easier. I shot up from my seat, anger flaring. They erased her. They erased an entire child. How is that easier? Sophia flinched. I don't agree with what they did, but you have to understand. Lily was special. They adored her, and losing her broke them. They couldn't handle it. The pieces clicked in my mind like a cruel puzzle. Is that why they never connected with me? I asked, my voice trembling. Because I wasn't her. Sophia looked at me with a sorrow that made my stomach drop. They were terrified, she said. Terrified of losing another child? So they held on too tightly to me and pushed you away because they didn't know how to love someone who reminded them of loss. I stared at her stunned. I remind them of what they lost, I asked. She hesitated, but she didn't deny it. Tears pricked my eyes. I thought of every holiday where my parents smiled at Sophia and barely looked at me. Every birthday where I got a card while she got a party. Every moment, I felt like a placeholder, a silhouette in the background of my own family. It all made sense now. Painful, infuriating sense, but there was still one question burning through me. How did Lily die? I asked quietly. Sophia's breath hitched. She looked away out the window at the ocean as if the answer were written in the waves. I can't tell you that, she whispered. Why not? Because if you knew. She shook her head. You'd never forgive them. Her words sliced through me like ice. What are you talking about? Sophia stood abruptly. Hailey, please don't push this. Some things are better left. No. The word came out sharper than I intended. Whatever happened, I deserve to know. Sophia's eyes filled again. She looked so scared, so fragile that for a moment I wondered what truth could possibly terrify her like this. She whispered, Hailey, it wasn't an accident. The room spun. Sophia covered her mouth as if she'd said too much. I grabbed the edge of the sofa to steady myself. What do you mean it wasn't an accident? She backed away, shaking her head. I can't say more. Please, just drop it. But something in her expression, guilt, fear, regret, told me everything. Whatever happened to Lily, my parents weren't just victims of tragedy. They were part of it. And the person sending those emails, they didn't choose me by accident. They chose me because they knew I was the one who would chase the truth. I drove home from Sophia's house with trembling hands and a brain that felt like it was being pressed through a narrow metal tube. My chest tightened every time I replayed her words. It wasn't an accident if you knew you'd never forgive them. The Pacific Coast Highway stretched endlessly beside me, glittering under the late afternoon sun, but I barely saw it. My vision tunneled, my foot heavy, my heart heavier. I kept expecting to wake up suddenly for this whole day to be some bizarre dream, a hidden sister, a cover-up, a death that wasn't an accident. But reality clung to me like the salt air seeping through the car windows. When I finally pulled into our apartment driveway, Noah was waiting on the front steps, his phone in hand, and concern etched across his face. He stood up quickly when he saw me. Hailey, he exhaled, walking toward me. You're pale. What happened? I didn't speak. I couldn't. My throat felt raw, like there were thorns inside it. He guided me in, sat me on the couch, and brought me a glass of water. Only when he sat quietly beside me, his warmth steady and patient, did the tight knot in my chest loosen enough for words to escape. I had a sister, I whispered. He froze. What? A sister, I repeated. Her name was Lily. She was older than us. I never knew she existed. Noah leaned back slowly, disbelief flickering across his features, and Sophia confirmed that. Yes, I swallowed. And she said, Lily's death wasn't an accident. Silence filled the room, dense, suffocating. Noah reached for my hand and squeezed gently. Hailey, What are you going to do? I don't know. The truth was, I did know. I just wasn't ready to say it. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, my mind refusing to settle. The air felt thick, as if it carried the weight of every unspoken truth my parents had buried. My phone buzzed sometime after midnight. I sat up instantly. It was an email from the same sender Lily Sun sent. My fingers shook as I opened it. Did you confront them? No introduction, no explanation, just that single question. My skin prickled. I typed. I confronted my sister. She told me Lily was our sibling. She said Lily's death wasn't an accident. I need you to tell me everything you know. The reply came instantly, like they'd been waiting. Meet me tomorrow. Noon, Griffith Park. The bench near the old carousel. No signature, no name, just directions. I stared at the message, adrenaline thudding in my veins. Griffith Park was huge. Hundreds of acres of trails and open space. The carousel area was quieter than most parts, often empty on weekdays. Hailey Noah murmured half asleep. Is everything okay? I turned the phone face down. Yeah. I lied softly. Just a client. The next morning I left before Noah woke up, scribbling a note on the kitchen counter that said I had a photo shoot and would be back in the afternoon. I hated lying to him, but this wasn't something I could drag him into. Not yet. This truth belonged to my family's ghosts. Griffith Park was unusually still when I arrived. The carousel, once vibrant, now felt abandoned. Its horses locked behind metal gates, dust caught in their painted manes. I found the bench exactly where the email had said it would be, facing the carousel, shaded by an old oak tree. No one else was around. I checked my phone 11:58 a.m. 2 minutes early. A breeze rustled the leaves above me, scattering small shadows across the dirt. I kept my eyes on the path leading from the parking lot. If this was a trap, I supposed it was a strange one. But my instinct whispered that whoever contacted me didn't want money. They wanted truth. At precisely noon, someone sat beside me. A woman. She wore a faded denim jacket and dark sunglasses, her hair tied back in a low bun. She didn't look at me. She didn't speak. But even without seeing her eyes, I felt the intensity rolling off her. The kind of energy someone carries when they've lived through something they can't unlive. I started. She held up a hand to silence me. I'm not here to hurt you, she said. Her voice was low, steady. I'm here because you need to know what happened to Lily. My heart pounded. You knew her. She exhaled slowly. I was her nanny. The air left my lungs in a rush. She continued, her voice trembling at the edges. My name is Margaret. I took care of Lily for almost 4 years until the day she died. I swallowed hard. Sophia said it wasn't an accident. Margaret's jaw tightened. It was no accident. My fingers curled into fists. Tell me everything, I whispered. She hesitated for a moment, then slipped off her sunglasses. Her eyes were tired, haunted eyes that had carried a secret far longer than any person should. Your parents, she began slowly, were very different people back then. Young, ambitious, obsessed with appearances. Everything had to be perfect. The house, the marriage, the children. She paused, studying me. You look like her, you know. Not exactly, but enough. A shiver ran down my spine. Lily was difficult, Margaret continued softly. Not in a bad way, just curious, fearless. She climbed things she shouldn't, wandered where she wasn't supposed to. Always testing limits. She wanted to explore everything. My throat tightened. She was the kind of child who would run toward adventure, Margaret added. And your parents hated that. They wanted obedience, perfection. I nodded. That rang painfully true. One day, she said, looking out toward the carousel, Lily ran into the backyard through the sliding door. She loved chasing butterflies. I was in the kitchen washing paint off her hands from a craft we'd done earlier. Your father was home early that day. He was on a work call, angry, stressed. Her voice dropped, and he forgot to lock the pool gate. My stomach knotted. Pool's children. Unsupervised moments. A sense of dread washed over me. She was only out of sight for maybe 40 seconds, Margaret whispered. But that's all it takes. I felt my pulse in my throat. When I realized the back door was open, I ran outside. I called her name. I checked the swing set, the garden, and then I saw her. Her voice cracked. She was floating face down in the pool. My vision blurred. No! I choked. I pulled her out. Margaret continued, tears spilling openly. Now I tried CPR. I screamed for help. Your father came out. Dropped the phone. Lost his mind completely. Your mother was hysterical. But it was too late. She was gone. I pressed a hand to my mouth, trying not to break, and after that I whispered. Margaret wiped her face. Your parents blamed me at first. I blamed myself. But the truth, the real truth, was that your father had left the pool gate unlocked. He had been warned about it before, several times. A cold wave washed through me. They didn't want anyone to know, she said. They made it look like I was negligent. Fired me. Paid me to stay silent. They told neighbors it was a tragic accident, that they had been watching her, that it was no one's fault but fate. I sucked in a shaky breath. They buried her, Margaret whispered. And then, they buried every sign she existed. I felt like I was drowning. Margaret looked at me with hollow eyes. They pretended Lily never happened to erase their guilt. But guilt doesn't disappear. It festers. It changes people. Changes. I tried to speak, but my voice broke. Why tell me this after all these years? She swallowed hard. Because you deserve to know the truth, she said. And because someone is opening the wound from the outside. My heart stuttered. Someone else, Margaret nodded. You're not the only one receiving messages. A shadow crossed my vision. What do you mean? I whispered. She hesitated. There is another person, she said quietly. Someone else who wants the truth to come out. My pulse raced. Who? Margaret stood abruptly, putting her sunglasses back on. Ask your parents, she said. Ask them why they're afraid now. Before I could stop her, she stepped away from the bench. Margaret, I called. She paused just once and looked back. Be careful, Hailey. Your family has spent 20 years hiding this. They won't let the truth ruin them now. Then she left, disappearing into the trees. I stood there breathless, the world spinning around me. As I finally walked back to my car, my phone buzzed again. A new email. No subject line. No text. Just one attachment. A photo of Lily holding a baby. Me. I stared at the email for what felt like a full minute before I could breathe again. Lily, no more than maybe 7 years old, smiling with the kind of open-hearted joy only children possess. Her arms wrapped protectively around a swaddled baby me, unmistakably me, with the same tiny birthmark near my right temple. It wasn't just a picture, it was a message saying you weren't only her replacement, you were her baby, you were loved by her. My hands trembled as I lowered the phone. The world around me blurred as if my eyes refused to decide whether to focus on the past or the present. My pulse thudded painfully in my ears. I felt like I was looking at the life I might have had. One where Lily was my big sister, where her hand shielded me, where she might have been. The bridge between me and the parents who never figured out how to raise another child after losing her. No wonder they kept the pictures hidden. No wonder they never spoke her name. No wonder they couldn't love me the way I needed. I wasn't just a reminder of their loss. I was the living proof of everything they had destroyed. I drove home in a daze, barely conscious of traffic lights or street signs. When I stepped through the front door, the smell of coffee hit me. Noah was sitting at the kitchen counter with 2 mugs. He looked up immediately when he saw me. You're shaking, he said, standing quickly. What happened? Where were you? I didn't know how to answer. So I handed him my phone. He swiped through the photos silently. His chest rose and fell heavily, as if he were trying to swallow the whole truth and failing. Jesus, Hailey, he whispered. His arms wrapped around me before I could crumble. I pressed my forehead against his shoulder, inhaling the faint scent of cedar and soap, grounding myself in him. He held me until my breathing steadied. When I finally pulled away, he cupped my face gently. You shouldn't deal with this alone, he said. Not when it's this heavy. I shook my head. Noah, my family is a black hole. Anyone who gets close is just sucked in, broken. This isn't something you should carry. He brushed his thumb along my cheek. I'm not going anywhere. Whatever this is, whoever Lily was, I'm with you. The sincerity nearly shattered me, but I still couldn't drag him into the wreckage. Not yet. Later. After Noah left for his studio session, I sat alone at my desk, staring at the photo again. My inbox stayed silent. Whoever was sending these images knew exactly how to keep me on a string, giving just enough truth to ignite obsession, then disappearing. I glanced at the clock, 6:47 p.m. My parents would be home from work. Before fear could talk me out of it, I grabbed my keys and drove to their house. The sky had turned a deep violet by the time I pulled into their pristine driveway. The lights inside glowed warmly, deceptively peaceful. I stepped out of the car with shaking legs. I rang the doorbell. It opened within seconds. My mother stood there, her features composed, her blonde hair tied neatly, her eyes widening only slightly when she saw me. "Hailey," she said softly. "Is everything all right?" "No," I said, not even close. A flicker of discomfort crossed her face, but she stepped aside. "Come in." The house felt suffocatingly familiar, expensive, immaculate, curated to appear perfect to visitors. I followed her into the living room where my father was sitting on the couch reading his tablet. He lowered it when he saw me. "Hailey," he said, tone neutral. "You're here late." I didn't sit. "I know about Lily." The room froze. My mother stiffened, her face draining of color. My father's expression shuddered instantly, the way someone slams a door before a storm gets inside. "Who told you that name?" he asked. Voice low, dangerous. I pulled out my phone and held up the picture of Lily holding me. "This told me." My mother's hand flew to her mouth. My father stood slowly, as if every muscle resisted movement. "I want the truth." I said, "all of it. No more lies, no more silence." They exchanged a look, one I had seen my entire life, a silent conversation where I wasn't included. Then my mother whispered, "Where did you get that photo?" "Someone sent it to me," I said. "Someone who wants the truth to come out." My father's jaw clenched. "You need to forward every message, every photo to me immediately." I laughed, sharp and bitter. "Why?" "So you can delete the evidence like you deleted her existence." My mother's shoulders shook. Tears welled in her eyes. "Hailey, sweetheart, you don't understand." "No," I said, voice breaking. "You don't understand. I grew up feeling like a ghost in my own home, not knowing why I couldn't fit into a shape you needed. Now I know I was never meant to be me. I was meant to be Lily." My father's face hardened. "This conversation is over." I stepped closer, fury rising. "Not until you tell me how she died." My mother let out a sob. My father closed his eyes. "It was an accident," he said tightly. "That's not what I was told," I snapped. "I know the pool gate was left unlocked. I know you were the one responsible that day. Your negligence killed her." The words hung in the air like poison. My father took a step toward me, anger simmering beneath his composure. "You will not throw accusations at me in my own home." "Accusations," I said, voice shaking. "They're facts." My mother suddenly covered her ears, whispering, "Please stop. Please, I can't listen to this." But I didn't stop. "You tried to erase her memory instead of admitting what you did," I continued. "You buried her, and then buried me under the weight of your guilt." My father's voice dropped to a warning growl. "You don't know everything." "Then tell me," I demanded. He hesitated just a second, but the hesitation was enough to break something inside me. "You're protecting yourself," I said. "Not her, and definitely not me." My father looked away. My mother cried silently, and something inside me snapped. "You don't get to decide who Lily was," I said. "You don't get to erase her, and you don't get to erase me." My father stepped forward again, his voice sharp. "You're being manipulated, Hailey. Whoever is contacting you is dangerous." "More dangerous than parents who pretend their dead child never existed?" I asked coldly. He flinched. I locked eyes with him. "Who else knows? Who did you piss off enough to make them dig this up?" My father didn't answer. My mother whispered, "Hailey, please leave it alone." "No," I said, "I won't." My father's composure cracked, anger flaring in his eyes. "If you keep digging, you're going to destroy this family." I stared at him. "This family destroyed itself years ago," I said softly. "I'm just finding the bones." I walked out before either of them could speak. My mother called my name, voice breaking. My father didn't say anything. I slammed the door behind me, walked to my car, and finally let myself breathe. When I pulled into my apartment building, the sky was nearly black. I stepped out of the car, emotionally drained, hoping to sneak inside without collapsing. Then I noticed the envelope. It was taped to my front door. No name, no address, just a white envelope with a red ink circle on the front. My stomach lurched. Hands trembling, I peeled it off and opened it. Inside was a single photograph. My father. 25 years ago, standing next to a woman who wasn't my mother. The woman was visibly pregnant. On the back of the photo, in the same handwriting from Lily's pictures, were 4 words that made my blood turn to ice. "Ask him about her." If this story gave you chills, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. There are countless real-life betrayals, twists, and revenge stories waiting for you in the next episodes. The photograph in my hand felt heavier than any paper should. My father standing beside a woman who wasn't my mother, her belly full, round, unmistakably pregnant. Both of them young, relaxed, smiling. I stared at the picture as if it were written in a language my brain refused to interpret. The hallway outside my apartment seemed to tilt, the floor shifting beneath my feet. For a moment, I couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Then the back of the photo cut through me like a blade. Ask him about her. Her, not Lily. Not my mother. Someone new. Someone they didn't want me to know existed. I forced myself inside the apartment, locking the door behind me. The place was quiet. Noah wasn't home yet. The silence didn't comfort me. It felt like the walls were holding their breath, waiting for me to unravel. I sat at the dining table and placed the photo under the lamp. The woman had soft, dark hair tucked behind her ears. A gentle smile, her hand resting protectively on her stomach. My father stood close, too close for it to be casual. A thought flickered, unwelcome and horrifying. What if Lily wasn't the only secret? What if I wasn't the only child they tried to erase? My pulse quickened. I couldn't wait. Not another minute. I grabbed my phone and dialed my father. He picked up on the second ring. "Hailey," he said, his voice tight. "It's late." I didn't waste breath on courtesy. "Who is the woman in the photograph?" A long, dead silence stretched across the line, the kind that reveals guilt, fear, panic. "Where did you get that?" he asked, each word clipped. "You need to answer me," I said now. He exhaled sharply like he was trying to steady himself. "This isn't a conversation we're having over the phone." "Funny," I said, "because you didn't mind lying to me over the phone. Or lying to me my entire life." "Hailey," he warned, "do not raise your voice." "Then tell me who she is." The shout echoed in my apartment, bouncing off the walls. My hands were shaking so violently I almost dropped the phone. My father didn't answer, so I twisted the knife. "Is she someone you loved?" I spat. "Someone Mom knew about. Someone connected to Lily." His silence was a confession. "Dad," I whispered. "Was she pregnant with Lily?" His breath hitched, barely audible, but I heard it. Everything inside me froze. "Oh my God," I whispered. "She was Lily's mother." He didn't deny it. He didn't say a single word, and that was enough. The world felt like it folded inward, crushing my lungs, compressing my ribs until I could barely inhale. "You had a child with another woman," I said, voice trembling. "And then you brought her into our family, pretended she was Mom's daughter." "Hailey, who was she?" I demanded. "What happened to her?" His voice came back raw, angry, frightened. "Stop digging. You don't understand the damage you're causing." "The damage I'm causing?" I repeated, laughing bitterly. "I'm trying to understand the ruins you left behind." He raised his voice, something he rarely did. "Enough, Hailey. Drop this. It's not your place." "My dead sister is not my place," I shot back. "The woman in this photograph, Lily's mother, is not my place. What else have you lied about? Who else did you bury?" He inhaled sharply, then hung up. The line went dead. I stared at the phone in disbelief. My father, always controlled, always composed, had panicked. Panicked enough to run from the truth. And that told me all I needed to know. The story wasn't just tragic, it was dangerous. I barely slept. When I finally drifted into a restless half-dream, the images blurred together. Lily laughing, Lily sinking beneath water, a woman with dark hair reaching for me. My father standing by the pool gate, unlocking it. Standing back. I woke with a jolt at dawn. Noah was asleep beside me, curled toward me, his hand resting lightly on my hip. I lay there listening to his steady breathing until my heartbeat slowed enough to think straight. At 8 a.m. my phone buzzed. Another email. No subject, no text, just a video file. My stomach lurched as I opened it. The footage was grainy, old shot on a camcorder. A backyard. A pool, the same pool from my childhood home. And then the audio played, my mother's voice faint. "Did you lock the gate?" My father's annoyed sigh. "I'll do it later. Margaret has her." "It's fine." Margaret, the nanny. The camera jolted. A small head of light curls darted across the frame. Lily. She ran toward the pool, chasing something. A butterfly, maybe, or just the glint of sunlight. She moved fast. Too fast. My breath caught. My father, off screen, said impatiently, "She needs to learn not to run off." My mother, Robert, she's 4. Then the camera shifted. Someone had placed it down, still recording. In the corner of the frame, the pool gate unlocked, unlatched, slightly open. Lily reached it, pushed it. It swung open effortlessly. "No," I whispered to my screen. "No, no. The video cut off abruptly. The sender didn't need to show the rest. I knew what happened next. My hands flew to my mouth. Tears blurred the screen. I gasped for air that wouldn't fill my lungs. Someone had this footage. Someone kept it all these years. Someone wanted my family exposed. But who? And why now? My fingers hovered over the keyboard typing before I even fully realized what I wanted to say. Who are you? This time the reply came within seconds. I'm someone who lost everything because of them. My heart thudded violently. I typed again. Are you Lily's mother? The response was immediate. No, she's gone. My breath froze. I typed slowly. Then who are you? The answer came back like a match struck in darkness. I'm the one your parents framed. Margaret the nanny. But Margaret had already met me. She had cried telling me the truth. She wasn't technologically skilled enough to send cryptic emails. She barely used her phone. So if it wasn't her, my hands went cold. I typed. Then who did my parents blame? A full minute passed. Then, the woman in the photograph. My chest tightened. Lily's mother. The pregnant woman with my father. But the earlier message had said she was gone. Before I could question it, a final email came through. Your father didn't just leave the gate unlocked, Hailey. He ruined more than one life. I stared at the screen until the words blurred. Then a second later, a new message. This one a single address. The location where everything began, where everything ended, where the truth waited. The house where Lily died. My childhood home, tonight. The house looked smaller than I remembered. Maybe because I had grown up. Maybe because the truth had finally shrunk its illusions. Or maybe because I now knew what had happened behind the walls I once believed were safe. Dusk had already fallen over the neighborhood by the time I parked across the street from my childhood home. The last streaks of sunlight clung to the sky like dying embers. Most of the houses glowed warmly from within. But mine. Dark, silent waiting. The air felt colder here. Or maybe it was me. I looked down at my phone one more time. The address. My old home tonight. Whoever sent the emails wanted me here. Wanted me alone. I stepped out of the car, gravel crunching under my shoes, and walked toward the house. Every memory I'd buried pressed against my ribs. Birthdays, Christmas mornings, scraped knees, lonely dinners, silent punishments. I reached the front door. It was unlocked. Of course it was. I pushed it open and stepped inside. The house smelled faintly of dust and lemon polish, like no one had lived here for years, even though my parents had only recently moved out. Their new home on the coast was bigger, brighter, free of ghosts. But this house was full of them. I flicked on a light. Nothing happened. Power off. The living room was washed in the dim blue glow of streetlights filtering through thin curtains. Furniture still stood where I remembered it. Sofa against the wall, dining table in the corner. But everything was covered in white sheets, like pale corpses. I swallowed hard. A soft creak sounded above me. On the second floor, my heartbeat skidded. Someone was here. I took a step back, instinct screaming. I should leave, call Noah, call the police, do anything except walk further into the darkness. Then my phone buzzed. A new message, from the same sender. Upstairs, a chill ran down my spine. I typed back the words jagged with fear. Who are you? Tell me your name. 3 dots flashed, then, come see for yourself. My breath stuttered, but I climbed the stairs. Every step creaked, echoing through the quiet house like a warning. Halfway up, I realized something unnerving. My trembling didn't come only from fear. Something deeper pulled me forward. A truth I'd been chasing without knowing how desperately I needed it. At the top of the stairs, the hallway stretched before me, lined with closed doors. My parents' bedroom. Mine, Sophia's, the office, and the last door on the left, a door I had never opened. A room I didn't know existed until tonight. My feet moved on their own, drawn toward it. A faint light flickered under the door, like a candle or a dying lamp. I pushed the door open and saw her. A woman sat in the center of the empty room, illuminated by a single lantern on the floor. Her back was toward me, shoulders hunched, head bowed slightly. Her long dark hair was streaked with gray, falling loosely over a faded coat. When she turned, my breath caught. I recognized her face, not from my memories, but from the photograph. The pregnant woman beside my father, but older now, worn hollow. She met my eyes and smiled a small, tragic smile. Hello, Hailey. My voice wouldn't come. She continued, her voice soft but steady. I've waited a long time to meet you. My throat tightened painfully. Who? Who are you? Her eyes glistened with something between sorrow and quiet rage. My name is Elena Ruiz, she said, and I'm Lily's mother. The room swayed around me. No, I whispered. They told me you were gone, that you died, she finished gently. No, Hailey. They needed me to disappear. That's not the same as being dead. I sank to my knees before I realized I was falling. Elena watched me like someone observing a frightened animal, careful not to move too quickly. The night Lily died, she said I wasn't here. They made sure of that. Your father told me to take the day off. Said he and your mother would watch her. My skin chilled. He said he wanted more time with our daughter, she whispered. I didn't know what that meant until it was too late. She stared past me into memories only she could see. When I came back, she continued. They wouldn't let me near her. They said it was my fault. They accused me of neglect. Her voice cracked. She swallowed hard, regaining composure. They called the police. They told them I was unstable, unfit, dangerous. They had money influence connections. I had nothing. The words tore through me. My father, I whispered, he ruined your life. A tremor passed through her jaw. Both of them did. I wiped my eyes with the back of my hand. But why come to me after all these years? Why now? Elena looked at me with an expression I couldn't decipher. Because you're the proof. They can't bury this time, she said. You were there the day she died. Lily was watching you when she slipped through that gate. My breath caught my chest, twisting painfully. You were her baby sister, she whispered. Her sunshine. She adored you. Tears burned my eyes. I saw Flash's tiny hands, soft laughter, a warmth I had always assumed was imagined. But maybe it was real. Your parents kept you, Elena said, voice trembling. I wasn't allowed to. They threatened me. Said if I came near you, I'd be arrested, institutionalized. They even paid people off to make sure no lawyer would take my case. Anger surged through me, cold, electric, overwhelming. I found the video I said I saw what happened. Elena nodded slowly. Your father left that gate open. He let me take the blame. Why didn't you expose them? I asked. A broken smile tugged at her lips. Because no one listens to the woman with less power. But they will listen to you. Me. She leaned closer. You're their daughter, she said. If you speak, people will listen. And you're the only part of Lily I have left. My breath hitched. Her next words were barely above a whisper. You're the only one they can't silence. A sudden crash sounded downstairs. We both froze. Footsteps fast, heavy. Someone else was in the house. Elena's eyes widened. They followed you. Them, I whispered. She grabbed my hand, her grip surprisingly strong. Your father, she said. He cannot let the truth get out if he sees me. If he knows you know everything. Her voice trembled. He will do anything to stop us. The footsteps grew louder, climbing the stairs. I pulled Elena toward the corner, extinguishing the lantern. Darkness swallowed us. My father's voice echoed up the stairwell, cold, furious, desperate. Hailey, where are you? Elena squeezed my hand tighter. We don't have much time. My father's footsteps thundered up the staircase, each one rattling the old wooden frame of the house. Elena and I crouched in the dark corner of the forgotten room, her hand gripping mine so tightly it hurt. But the pain kept me alert, present, alive. His voice cut through the hallway like a blade. Hailey, come out right now, we're leaving. He wasn't afraid. He was furious, panicked. People only sound like that when the truth is closing in behind them. Elena inhaled sharply. He knows I'm here. The steps paused just outside the room. I could see the shadow of his shoes beneath the door. Then, the doorknob twisted. Elena squeezed my fingers. It's time, she whispered. The door swung open. My father stood in the doorway, silhouetted by the faint hallway glow. His chest rose and fell rapidly. The veins in his neck strained with something between terror and rage. When he saw me on the floor, his entire expression collapsed. Hailey, he breathed. Thank God. Then he saw Elena. His face drained of all color. Elena, he said quietly, you shouldn't be here. She stood slowly, her posture straighter than I expected. Dignified, unbroken. I have every right to be, she replied. He stepped into the room, blocking the doorway, like a predator cornering prey. You need to leave now. No, I said, rising beside her. She isn't going anywhere. He looked at me with the desperation of a drowning man. You don't understand. Then explain, I shot back, because I'm tired of being treated like a child. He shut his eyes, exhaling through clenched teeth. This isn't just about you or Lily. A soft, broken voice spoke from behind him. It's about all of us. My mother appeared in the doorway, her hands tremoring, her eyes red and swollen. She must have followed him. She must have known. Perhaps she always did. She stepped inside the room, her gaze finding Elena with a shattering mixture of guilt and fear. "Elena," my mother whispered, "you should have stayed away." Elena's jaw tightened. "I stayed away for 20 years, and look where it brought us." I moved to stand between them. "No more riddles," I said. "No more secrets. Tell me everything I deserve to know." Silence thickened the room. Then my mother sank to the floor and began to speak. "The truth. Before Lily was born," she began, her voice unsteady. "Your father and I were struggling. Our marriage was falling apart. We were young. We were careless. She looked at him, the betrayal still raw. He had an affair. My father didn't deny it. "Elena and I didn't plan anything," he said quietly. "It just happened. And then she got pregnant," my mother whispered. "With Lily." Elena's eyes burned with old hurt. "You were going to leave her," she said to my father. "You told me that every night. You told me we would raise Lily together." He swallowed hard. I was confused. "No," she said coldly. "You were a coward." My mother continued. "When Elena had Lily, I thought I couldn't stay with him. But then I saw her. I held her, and she needed a family." She buried her face in her hands. "I convinced your father to bring her home. We pretended she was ours. I thought I could love her. And I did. God, I did." Her shoulders shook. "But I could never forget," she whispered, "that she wasn't mine." Elena's lips pressed into a thin, trembling line. My father spoke next, voice cracking. "Then you were born, Hailey. And suddenly, we had 2 little girls, 2 daughters. And I thought, maybe this could work." Everything inside me twisted painfully. "And then the accident happened," I said. The room went still. My father's eyes glistened. "I forgot to lock the gate. I told Elena I was rushing on a work call. I thought." "You thought you had time," Elena said, her voice barely a whisper. "I trusted you. I trusted you with my daughter." My father's voice broke. "I didn't mean—" "No," she cut him off. "You didn't mean to kill her, but you did." The words struck him like physical blows. My mother sobbed harder. "When Lily drowned," she said, "I felt like my world ended. But I also knew, if the truth came out, we would lose everything. Our marriage, our home, our reputation, both of our children." Her voice cracked. "So we lied," she whispered. "We lied to the police. We lied to you. We lied to ourselves." I looked at her in horror. "And you vilified Elena." "We had to," my father whispered, "or her lawyers would expose us." "She lost her daughter," I said, tears spilling. "And you took everything else from her." My father stepped forward, reaching out. But I recoiled. He froze. "Hailey," he whispered, "please understand. We were trying to protect our family." "You destroyed ours," I said. The final revelation. Elena stepped beside me and spoke softly. "I never wanted to hurt you, Hailey. You were just a baby. A little girl who didn't understand why one day her big sister never came home." My chest tightened, my vision blurred. "I reached out to you," she continued, "because the truth deserves to breathe. Lily deserves to breathe." My father's voice broke hoarse. "What do you want from us?" Elena looked at him with eyes full of decades of pain. "An apology," she said. "A real one. And for the world to know what really happened." He shook his head violently. "I can't—" "Yes," my mother whispered, "we can—" He stared at her as if she had betrayed him anew. But she met his gaze with the strength of someone who had spent too long drowning. "I'm done lying," she said. A long, painful silence. Then he lowered his head. "I'm sorry," he whispered to Elena, "for everything. For your daughter. For the years I stole from you. For the truth I buried." His voice trembled. "I am so, so sorry." Elena's breath hitched and she covered her mouth, her body folding with the grief she'd carried alone for decades. He turned to me. "Hailey," he said, "I failed you. I hurt you. I will spend the rest of my life trying to make it right." I shook my head, stepping away. "You can't fix 25 years of damage with words," I said. "But you can tell the truth." And he knew it. He nodded slowly, defeated. "We'll go public," he said. "We'll tell the whole story." My mother reached for my hand, trembling. "Will you stay?" she whispered. "Will you forgive us?" I looked between them. The broken woman, the guilt-ridden man, the shadows of their choices hanging over all our heads. I breathed in deeply and made my decision. The ending. "I forgive you," I said softly, "but I can't stay." Their faces crumpled. "I need space," I continued. "I need a life that isn't built on your lies. I need to figure out who I am without your secrets." My father swallowed. Where will you go? Anywhere, I said with a small, sad smile. Everywhere with Noah. With my camera. With the truth. Elena stepped forward and brushed a tear from my cheek. You look like her, she whispered. But stronger. I hugged her tight, trembling reel. For Lily, I whispered. For Lily, she echoed. We walked out of that house together, leaving the ghosts behind, leaving them to face the world they tried so hard to control. As we stepped into the night, I looked up at the sky, vast, endless, unburdened. And for the first time in my life, I felt the weight lift. I was no longer the child meant to replace. I was the woman who chose her own story. And that was enough.